Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am here with Harmful Opinions, and
All
we
right.
are going to be talking about Candid. Consider it a candid chat, if you will. Nya, 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 nya. No one's ever made that joke
Oh,
before. I'm so funny. Hello, Harmful. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you, mate?
Ah, the drama abounds, and I'm braced for it. That's as good as it's gonna get.
Drama's the blood that flows through YouTube's veins.
Exactly. That's part of the reason I absolutely despise this everything about it. Everything has to be a drama.
Fair
Although I
enough.
suppose I do enjoy a little bit of drama and the thematics. You've been defined as the chaotic neutral in this, and someone in that description also described me as the lawful neutral. So we can have that little bit of drama as well. We can have that thematic
All right. I
thing
wasn't
going
I
through
wasn't
it.
aware that I'd been given an alignment.
You have got an alignment for reasons unknown, because this is the internet and everything has to be dramatic and hyperbolic. So with that in mind, it's my understanding that you have a little readout speech prepared that will basically catch everyone up with what's happened over the past several months, and we're going to have a conversation after you've basically done that. So unless you'd
Yep,
like
if
to
that's
say
all right.
anything else beforehand, off you go.
Brilliant. So here's the issue in a nutshell to catch everyone up, because I'm sure some of you have no fucking idea what's going on. Some of you have some idea. Some of you might even be sick of it. It's quite tricky to get up to speed using the videos about it because they were released as things were uncovered. So hopefully this explains it clearly enough in one easy to swallow dose. So last year, a number of skeptic community YouTubers were paid to make videos advertising a social media site called Candid. After seeing a number of these ads pop up in my subfeed, I criticized the site that so many people were shilling for having a filter bot, sort of similar to the one on Twitter that everyone hates, but more extreme. And I also criticized the skeptic community creators who advertised it for not mentioning this when it seems obvious to me that their free speech loving audiences would care about this bot. To me, it looked sort of like they were deliberately leaving out this information because they were being paid and knew their audience wouldn't like it. So they wanted to make a good ad for the people paying them. So I made a basic criticism video about that first round of ads, and I had no intention originally of following up on it. It was just meant to be a one-off to get people to think, like I normally do about any other topic. Turns out, some folks who watched the YouTubers who advertised Candid really did care about what I brought to light, and this caused a bit of a PR problem, both for those YouTubers and for the company Candid. And this is where it gets interesting. The company's response was to retaliate, including in a number of shady ways. These methods included paying other YouTubers explicitly to counter and discredit me and the shitstorm my videos set off, telling my mother they were receiving anonymous tips about her and her account, presumably to intimidate me and get to me. Along similar lines to that, they also offered at least one person a reward for keeping track of me and what I was up to regarding my investigation. The CEO also let it be known by telling a YouTuber called Johnny Fox that her lawyers wanted to go after critics because we were allegedly breaking the law in her eyes. And on top of that, Mark Kern, a guy best known for his work on World of Warcraft, was intimidated into silence after he criticized the website, and Candid's CTO let him know he was digging into Mark's history in response to his criticism. After all that and more, various skeptic community creators have continued to produce ad videos for this company, endorsing the site as something their audience should use, and presenting Candid as a company their audience should trust. Last month, another controversy regarding Candid flared up. It was claimed by various commenters and Twitter users that the site was not properly dealing with illegal activity, such as distribution of child pornography. The accusation was that the site merely hid these posts instead of removing them, leaving them accessible to anyone with a direct link, effectively working to help anyone doing this get away with it. Unsurprisingly, this brought a new wave of anger against the people pushing Candid to their audience. People were angry that people were still shilling it. Now, here's where community comes in, something I'm sure you know Teal Deer is critical of. Following this reheating of the issue, Sargon of Akkad, a leading voice in the skeptic community, released a video called The Skeptic Community. This video contained a call for people to leave the YouTubers who take money to make ads for Candid alone, essentially on the basis that they couldn't have known any of the information about the company's dark side before they made their ads. ignoring the fact that many of these people are making ads months after all the important info about Candid was made public, and also ignoring the fact that some of the people making ads were directly involved with this company's shady way of shutting critics up. Pardon me. This recent sweeping under the rug of what happened and the brushing away of all that's been done by a company I think people really should be warned about was ostensibly done for the greater good of the so-called skeptic community, to maintain it and to guarantee community cohesion. And I think it will work for that. But meanwhile, as everyone's happy and getting along, the content creators and leaders of the community, who everyone's being told to let off the hook, are continuing to create ads for Candid, sending their viewers to a social media site that might well come after them personally if they dare to criticize it, based on how Candid's reacted in the past. And none of the people pushing this site are letting their viewers know about what Candid's done to critics, partly because they've likely signed a standard contract that says they're not allowed to do or say anything that could reasonably be expected to hurt Candid's image for 2 years after their contract ends. In my eyes, this situation's a real problem. Candid's a rotten company and everyone knows it, but they continue to shill it and keep it quiet about the nasty parts. Which isn't even mentioning the complications and conflict of interest this creates when any of these social commentators want to talk about or criticize Candid's competitors like Twitter or Facebook, which is a problem because Twitter's now being changed to essentially be more like Candid and use AI to filter more posts for more or less the same reasons Candid does. The two companies even use some of the exact same language in their justification of their filtering. And finally, to put a cherry on top of this summary, some of the recent ads, including one published by a YouTuber called Blair White just a week ago, don't even contain proper disclosure. Her one in particular only tells you the video's an ad at the end, after you've watched it. There's more to it than this. I can go into more detail about various bits of it, and I've provided Teal'c with relevant pictures and links to show exactly what was up, but hopefully that outlines the issue well enough for anyone previously unfamiliar with the general problem. Right. Had a bit of a problem breathing there.
That's completely fine. Hopefully everyone is pretty up on what's been happening. Basically, it is a company that says, hey, we're a free speech platform, you can come and you can shitpost and you can do all the wonderful things on it. They pay a bunch of people to advertise it, and it turns out that they're actually censoring the ever-loving shit out of their content. Like, posts will be removed, they'll be shadow banned, and it's really basically just that conflict of interest that I find particularly interesting here.
Like, if you're annoyed with what Twitter's doing right now, the premise of Candid is that Candid does all that shit.
Yes. That is sort of the real issue which I've got with it. Now, it should be noted in this that lots of social media sites use some sort of bot in order to filter content. And I think, even Harmful Opinions, you'd agree with me that if you have a bot and it removes posts which are nothing but nigga, 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 nothing of value is lost. But as we all well know, that's not where it ends.
Well, it also has to be controllable by you. You have to be able to see what they're doing.
Precisely, and that's part of the problem. Candid has a lot of stuff that's under the hood, and as a result, no one can actually see it. And apparently the bot even scrambles the data that it sends back to them, so that even they don't seem to even know what exactly the bot is doing, which I find, again, slightly worrying. It's kind of like, when is this thing going to go Skynet on your ass exactly?
Well, I mean, it already, when I was looking into it, it already had picked up a bit of a bias, I guess you'd say. I tested posting a couple of things. One of them was white people kill themselves. So not really a threat even, just a statement, a generalization, or just saying that white people sometimes kill themselves. I also posted black people kill themselves. Only one of them got filtered. Now, supposedly they fixed it, but you can still mess around with it, and things that are perfectly fine will get filtered. And there's no transparency. It's the same sort of thing people are furious with Twitter about right now. And yet, when people in the community are being paid, obviously the people who are doing the ads aren't going to nail it. And there's sort of an expectation of no one else to really nail it, or consider that, maybe there's a conflict of interest, that maybe these people will have to hold back a bit on Twitter because slamming that might slam Candid at the same time inadvertently. I feel there's a real loss of credibility that's being swept under the rug that is really important to address, beyond just making sure people know about the shadiness.
Yeah, so let's have a little sort of moment on that. A lot of the people who have been making videos talking about Candid are generally the sort of, in favor of free speech. You should be able to say whatever you want, whenever you want. That doesn't necessarily mean you have a duty to be intentionally offensive to anyone, but it means that you can be if you wanted to be, and it allows for the expression of the most unsavory conversations, and that way people that can basically look at someone and go, wow, I really don't want to associate with you because you're clearly a complete and utter and colossal dick. But when you've got that social media site deciding for you what is allowed to be posted, that becomes a bit of an issue because, as you've said, it seems like the bot is picking up a little bit of a bias. And what I found very interesting is the different approach which two spheres of YouTube have taken. The sort of skeptic rationalist side of things have picked up on the, oh, it's great, it's shitposty, you can do whatever you want, but the social justice side of people who have also been paid to talk about it are talking about how there's a bot that censors things and gets rid of all the unsavory people for you.
That is very interesting. What's fascinating is, yeah, the free speechy people, Black Pigeon Speaks is a good example. He makes it sound like an absolute free speech utopia. The Amazing Atheist did an ad where he called it the free speech app. And yet there's this person called Sensei something, like super stereotypical SJW type chick. And her entire ad is about how you can get rid of people by reporting them, and the bot will then learn what it shouldn't allow and things like that. So obviously the information was out there for people, and when they're paid to make an ad, they decide to highlight or sweep under the rug different bits. And part of that I found fascinating, someone who I'd say is more neutral in that conflict based of what I say, what I've seen. There's a tech review guy who I saw did an ad called Review Tech USA, and he included everything. So someone who appears to me to not have a bias either way in terms of being extreme for free speech or being extreme against offensive speech. Based on what I've seen, he was happy to include everything, which is just interesting to me, at least.
Yeah, it is very interesting which sort of sides of this particular product people have chosen to highlight. And I'm sort of thinking, like, the people on the skeptic side who, for the most part, did not even mention the bot at all. And that I find really, really weird, because on Candid's website, they are very open about the fact that they are using a bot to
it's the main selling feature,
exactly.
Really.
So I find it really weird that people would not mention this, considering it is a really sort of big point of it. And that then raises the sort of question, why would these people not mention this? And
well, Baring even told me that he was sent a list of talking points that included the bot. He said he didn't mention it because he's not tech savvy, and it sort of went past him. But plenty of other people, Sean Head in particular, has criticized Twitter's filtering in the past. So her decision not to include it in her original ad, I find quite suspect, especially when, as we were just saying, the existence of Candid is founded upon this bot. Basically, if you look into their interviews, there were other similar apps that had a problem with people being abusive. And their answer to that is to make something that's a clone of something like Whisper or whatever the other app was called and put this bot in. The CEO of the company was featured on Intel's YouTube to talk about this bot. It's what makes the site special. You go to their press page, that's what they're talking about. You go to their own ad, their own little video, and it basically sounds like South Park. They say, speak your mind freely in a place where bullies and trolls aren't allowed. Let our AI scan your posts.
Yeah, that to me, it just sounds a little bit dystopian and like something that people on the free speech side should not really be in support of. And it really is just bizarre, the fact that people would seem to be very in support of it and not mention it. And it's weird because obviously I was in contact with Candid. They did approach me. And my involvement with Candid has been very behind the scenes because I didn't really want to have anything to do with them. But my involvement was leaked by Bindu in her Bearing stream because, apparently...
his name was as well.
Yeah, I know. It's like apparently this... was it non-disclosure of things, client confidentiality isn't a thing, apparently for Candid,
Oh,
which I
it only
find
goes
really
one
weird.
way.
Yeah.
This wonderful company that's based around keeping you anonymous and safe leaks names, tells everyone who's been on the phone with them. I remember you being a bit annoyed that she said something like you were going to do a video eventually.
Yes, I was immensely annoyed with that actually, because I the way that Candid was explained to me when I had that chat with Bindu was that the reason they have to have the bot in order to remove harmful opinions
Opinions.
from the, let's just make the joke, shall we, in order to remove that from Candid, the reason that that was implemented was because they were launching the Candid app through the Apple and the Android stores, and it was required for them. And I found that to basically be against my principle of, well, no, you should be able to post whatever the hell you like. I'm a user of various Chan boards where you can post literally anything, as long as you're not breaking the law. So you can post anything basically except child porn, something which you can find on Candid, coincidentally,
Well, I
rather
mean,
interestingly.
people don't buy that when it comes to Twitter, do they? And there's a line, there's this meme repeated. It's just an app. Well, it's the same as Twitter. You can go to it on your browser and use it the same as you
Yeah,
use Twitter, or you can use your phone app. Twitter's
precisely.
is on the App Store, and people are giving Twitter tons of shit for the new filtering, which is very similar,
Mm.
and no one's letting them defend it by saying, "Oh, it's to make sure our app is good for the App Store or something."
Yeah, and that was one thing which I found a little odd. But the reason that she said that I was going to make a video about it was because in my conversation with her, I said, well, I'm not a phone user. Like, I really don't use my phone for anything other than, like, text messages and phone calls. I'm not an app user. So I would be more interested in a desktop version, which then wouldn't have to have the bot attached to it. So it would behave more like one of the Chan boards, because you wouldn't have to have that back end filtering it because of this higher power that you have to answer to. And I said,
Do you know
like,
what they've done?
I don't know.
Their solution to that, right, is if you go into the site via your browser, there is one group that isn't filtered by the bot.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So that might have been sort of the quick fix implement, because I was under the impression it was very, very slapdash when I was talking to her. They basically said, "Oh yeah, we'll look at doing like a full desktop version without any sort of things, and if they've only created one board, well, oh great, yeah, I'm totally gonna go and do
It's
a fucking
containment.
review video on that, right? Yeah, no, no, I want the entire fucking site. I want an entire fully navigatable site to be accessible on the desktop without any basically filtering outside of mandatory, like, people watching for blatantly illegal shit. Like that's it. Like, I would want it to basically be like 8chan 2.0, but let's be honest, they're never going to do that. And
I
that,
bet
I
they
think, is
couldn't pull
where
it
she got,
off.
no, they couldn't. And that, I think, is where she got the idea that I was going to be shilling for them in the future. I just said, if you implement a website which doesn't have this restriction, then I might actually look at it. That's kind of it. It's like, I will look at it as a thing. I probably still won't use it because I'm already a user of other sites which offer exactly what you're claiming to, but better. So yeah,
Yeah, because once you get to talking about using your desktop, what's the point? Why go the hard way?
exactly.
I also find it odd because I'd assume one of the reasons for sterilizing everything, which is what Twitter's doing now, is so you can please advertisers
Yes.
or whoever else wants your site to be
Yeah,
clean.
and that was a very, very big part of my discussion with Bindu, was what is your business model and how are you making money? Because as far as I'm concerned, if you're offering me a free to use app, it's not free. You're getting something out of it. Where are the advertisements, or how much of my information are you harvesting to sell to people? Now, I was assured that none of your personal information would be taken, but that they would look at putting adverts on it in the future. So, if that's their business model, I don't particularly care whether that's how they do things or not. But I was very concerned about them harvesting people's information, because it's like, oh, you're anonymous, but you've got to sign in using a phone number or a Facebook account.
Well, here's the thing they just will not address. They will not answer adequately. And that is, so this bot gives you a badge and it keeps track of your posts. Could someone hypothetically see a collection of one person's posts? Because from that, you could probably glean a lot of info about them, you could probably, in some cases, figure out who they are if it keeps a record of that one identity's posts. They say they don't store IPs,
you could build a
but they
very,
don't
very
even
good
need to.
profile on it based on what someone's doing. Absolutely, you could
And
personality profile someone on that.
I've yet to see an adequate answer to that. They just, at least back when I was heavily looking at this in 2016, their only answers were stuff like, "Oh, we don't store IPs." Which is like, I don't care. Well, what can you get on an individual? And then there's the whole issue with talking about selling the bot or selling the info. It doesn't matter if they can't give it to someone else. What happens if they get acquired?
Yeah.
And then what happens if they get acquired and you have all these people with these contracts that say they can't disparage?
Yes.
Candid, does that then apply to the new owners or whatever?
It will, yes. And this is the big issue which I've got. One of the major issues I have with the Shills.
It's not unrealistic that they'd be bought by someone if it's going, if it starts going well, they want money. So if someone's going to buy
startups want to be bought by big companies because that's how they continue to have a job. And that is one of my real concerns with the Shills who have been gagged voluntarily, I would point out. Now, this is something which people, which has been made public, but which a lot of people don't seem to know. In the Candid information, I'll see if I can quickly find the screenshot for it, but in the Candid
standard contract,
yes, in the standard contract, there is this clause here. It's clause 10, the non-disparagement thing, which I'll just read for anyone listening to it. From the term of this agreement and 2 years after its termination, producer will not disparage MyLikes or Candid or otherwise take any action which could reasonably be expected to adversely affect MyLikes' reputation or public perception. The producer will not disparage MyLikes, Candid, or any of MyLikes or Candid's directors, officers, agents, or executives, or otherwise take any action which could reasonably be expected to adversely affect the personal or professional representation of the service or any of its directors, officers, agents, or employees. So that is something which is very, very important. Now, that was a clause which was in the contract which most people signed when they did these shilling videos.
We can't be 100% sure, because there's also an NDA, which means they can't tell you they've signed something that says they can't say anything.
Yeah. Now, the only person we know who didn't have this was Undoomed, but that's because he renegotiated his contract with Candid.
Which I think is embarrassing for anyone who signed one with it in, if they agree to.
Yeah, this is a thing. It's, okay, I'm going to make a video about a startup company. I can't say shit for 2 years after it. Okay, what happens if that company gets acquired by someone? What happens if that company totally changes how the platform works? So, okay.
And forget the app itself, what they've done, what the company's done to combat dissent, particularly with Mark Kern and with trying to get people to track their critics. Because the guy who was offered a reward actually let me into his account, so I could see that he was messaging the CEO and she offered him a reward for tracking what I was up to and what some other people were up to. That's kind of worrying. And now these people can't say anything about that because it would definitely hurt their reputation.
Yeah, and this is a thing which I find very odd, that, again, these people who are totally up for free speech would sign something that's basically like, yeah, no, you speak very highly of us and then you're not allowed to say anything because otherwise lube up because you're going to court. You know, that's something very, very worrying, again, for people who are supposed to be, oh, we're all about free speech and we're all about researching things before we open our fucking mouths about a topic. You know, say, oh, yeah, we're skeptics. It's our job to really pay attention to things and to read all of the information.
Fight a culture war. Fight a culture war against the politically correct speech police.
Yes.
Also sign a contract that says I can't say things that might hurt someone's reputation.
Yeah. So yes, I'm going to win this culture war with a ball gag in my mouth. Well, fucking good for you. Sure you are. Okay, you're a fucking genius if you think you're going to win that.
Especially when this kind of thing, this kind of social media filtering, is a major weapon of their supposed opponents. Especially when you see Germany's government involvement trying to get its hand into Facebook and things like that. That is the shit you need to stay away from if you're going to try to fight all that. You need to make sure there's no conflict of interest. You need to make sure you're absolutely squeaky clean and that you don't end up taking money to make a video defending filtering systems.
Yeah, I do not like the idea of filtering this. So I just want to quickly also show people the shots of the information which was being shared between Candid and the person who opened the account, or so that you could see it. And As you can see here, you've got Bindu saying, you have helped us track this, and that's been pretty useful, to which the squirrel in a very stylish hat, I don't know who that
He's
is.
on Twitter. He's the Guardian _001.
There you go.
He was very, very helpful in
That
this.
guy. Yeah, responds, I should start looking for non-monetary compensation for this, maybe IOU cards. The response from the Candid CEO, haha, or we can give you something else in return. I don't know what though, especially if it needs to be non-monetary. So, another video, the email underneath that.
Well, and prior to them saying that, he was basically giving her information about what I was doing, saying what he'd talked to me about, feeding her information. Some of it disinformation, because obviously he wasn't really working with her.
Yeah. So this is quite interesting.
Sorry to cut in again. It does make me worry a bit. Who else have they got feeding them information? Especially when the CEO had talked to my mother, telling her that she'd received tips about my mother's account.
Yeah, this is quite unusual, because what this is Candid bribing people for information about someone who simply just doesn't like their product, who's not actually said anything particularly untoward, but has basically just said, hey, this is a website that uses a filtering system similar to Twitter. If you don't like Twitter, you shouldn't like this.
Well, the ending of my original video that set everything off, I straight up just say, I wouldn't recommend it. If you're going to use it, be careful.
Yeah.
And I think that would be too controversial.
Yeah,
I put out a wacky theory, and I also said, I don't think that's true, but here's something fun to consider.
Yeah. And I see nothing wrong with this. It's like, look, this is a thing. It has this bot which removes content. Just be aware that in the future this could go south. Oh, okay.
And I think it's crap as it is. You know, just same as I'd talk about anything else, but then there's this retaliation.
Yeah, and this has been a violent retaliation in not in a physical sense.
I'd say extreme.
Extreme, yeah.
Out of proportion.
Definitely. Definitely. It's been very, very large compared to the threat, as it were.
I think most companies would be smart enough not to do that because of what it would bring upon them.
Yeah, which is this.
Yeah.
This is what's happening now. You're being held to account for the fact that you are bribing people to basically try and blackmail someone for just saying, I don't like your stuff. Wow, overreact much? Fucking really? Okay, so one of the things which we've spoken about is how Candid has actively been censoring people. Now, you mentioned this chap, Mark Kern, and his Twitter post here, which I'll just read again for listeners. But that's not true. They silenced me. Under legal advice, I will cease talking about the free speech app Candid. Congratulations, freedom. I mean, could you expand upon what this guy meant by that?
So what had happened was a YouTuber called Johnny Fox had talked with Bindu Reddy, who is the CEO of Candid, and she'd made it known to him that her legal team was going to go after critics, that she claimed she was holding them back, but she was trying to be reasonable or whatever. This information got out there, and people like me and Mark Kern, who was critical of it at the time, got a bit concerned with that. Then Candid's CTO, who's also the husband of the CEO, messages Mark Kern and says, well, he doesn't message Mark Kern. He talks to someone else on Twitter, but Mark Kern is also tagged in and mentions trying to look into his history with Blizzard. So he used to work for Blizzard. I think in the link I sent you, there's that's included.
I assume it might be scrolled down a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you just start the what was the post starting with, if you remember?
One moment. I can just get it. It is okay. So I won't say anything bad about Candid because I did, and this happened. One of many since deleted that one.
Yeah, there you go. And there's 3 app mentions looking into the history that Mark has had with Blizzard, and that guy is someone who works for Candid.
He's the CTO.
So this is,
which I find that incredibly. I find that absolutely unacceptable from a company addressing its critics.
Yeah, I mean these
especially
are people
after they've talked
up.
about lawyers going after people, and that basically scared him off of Twitter at the time.
Now I find that to be pretty fucking reprehensible. I mean, these are people high up in a company threatening to lawyer up against people for just saying, I don't really like this product.
Well, not only that, but making it known that they're looking into someone's history
Yeah. I
at
mean,
the
that
same time as doing that. That's
this is a threat.
incredibly worrying. That is, if beyond the free speech issues of online filtering, that is trying to get someone to shut up, and it worked. You would think anyone who's for people speaking, especially if you're for speaking truth to power, right? That
Mm,
should be the point at which you go, fuck this thing.
yeah. So
But
how
instead, the combination of people getting paid and the need for community cohesion means you don't really hear about it. And it gets, after enough time's gone past and people make some more ads to make people happy about this company, gets swept under the rug.
Yeah, and this is sort of where things got a little bit more interesting because you continued on pointing out the various flaws of Candid. Now, I must confess I was very tempted to, but given your diligence on the topic, I thought, nah, the fiery brain's got it. I'm gonna do something else with my life, like play video games, something far more important.
And
But Candid began having basically a whip around, offering people money to do videos in response
that
to
that was
you, to
that was
silence you.
before that. That
Was
was
it?
before the Mark Kern thing, I believe.
Okay.
If I can,
So,
yeah, that was just before, basically.
so some of the people who were sort of quite open about this, well, one of them was actually quite a big YouTuber, the Amazing Atheist, who really did not take kindly to your how
So
can we put this,
at the
criticism of
time I
Candid.
asked people about counter videos, um, I wasn't giving people the actual leaked message. So someone was approached. Do you have that picture up? Because I can't see what you're.
I've got to try and find it. The I do you want to do the one with shoe on head, armored skeptic even releasing his video censored opinions, or just go straight to the
Oh well,
atheist
the one where it's a message from Angelo Curtis, or however you say his name.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
one.
Okay. Yeah, we'll pop that up. The we're acutely aware of it, and we're having some influencers do a counter video. Would you be open to doing one as well?
So a YouTuber who'd already worked with them was asked them about if they were aware of the shitstorm that was going on and
Who
what
was
I'd
that?
done. I probably shouldn't say.
Okay, that's fair
I,
enough if you don't want to.
I let it slip once before, but I'm not going to again.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So he gives this to me, which means he was asked to do a counter video, and he was also told by Candid's marketer that other people were doing them. At that point, 2 videos had come out that were sort of damage control that didn't say they were sponsored. So we have no idea if this was part of it or not. But of course, now that this info is out there, there's an appearance of impropriety. There was Mundane Matt responding to me immediately, basically calling me a conspiracy theorist nutcase. There was Shoe on Head's one, Candid Do Nothing, where she says doesn't have a problem with what I was doing, but says she's off the contract, which I doubt.
Yeah, that one was really, really odd. She just claimed to be off contract despite, apparently still being gagged by it. And this was an interesting one because she claimed this was like a one-time thing, sort of a fire and forget
There's
advert.
another one. So did she do a new contract? If she did, that's a new contract after all the shit they were doing. If it was the same contract, then she was lying in that video. It's hard to see. For me, a very nice outcome. But after I already knew about this message being sent to one of the YouTubers who'd worked with them, a video comes out that's called Censored Opinions by Armored Skeptic. And when I tried to ask him about this, about counter videos, he starts talking about how he was going to talk to me about it, but he was scared of me outing him.
Yes,
which was very strange.
Yeah,
and then
so
the next day I was trying to get him to let slip something he shouldn't let slip, and his story got all mixed up, and he said something like, oh no, it wasn't about you because I wrote it before, and then he deleted that and said, no, that was wrong, actually I wrote it after your first video, sorry. And what was the other thing that ended up happening? Then the story ends up being that he thought it was obvious the title, thumb, and questions he answered were all in reference to my concerns. So which was it? Yeah, I'm really not into people doing stuff for corporations if they're going to be basically doing social media hit videos, like a hit piece sort of thing. even though I'm not directly named, because the CEO wanted it not to be known that was going on. I asked her about that and she denied it, even though I had in my possession a copy of the message.
So
asking someone
you
to do
have
that.
emails from Candid basically saying to various content creators, we need you to do damage control videos for us because someone has kicked the bee's nest and we don't like it. And, you know, people that you've asked about it deny it, and yet they still are putting out videos.
At least 2 people did this and were approached about this. So at least 2 people are lying.
Yeah.
And not being transparent. Can we tell who? No, it just means there's an appearance of impropriety.
Yeah. And this is sort of what so much of this is about. It's about general improper conduct. Who exactly is in this? And again, it's very difficult to tell, but part of the reason that it's difficult to tell is because everyone is slapped with a gag order and a non-disclosure agreement. So they can't say anything even if they want to. And this is kind of the problem.
The most fantastic one, though, is, or I should say amazing one. Yes. I messaged the Amazing Atheist regarding counter videos because I figured he'd be one of the people who'd be doing one. And if you have the picture,
I do. Good. Yes.
his response is pretty good.
Yes, I'm very tempted to do all of the impressions here. So your statement was, how smooth can I be? Hey mate, one of my sources was approached by Candid's marketer about making a counter video and was told that other influencers had been approached to create them too, and potentially used other platforms to counter what's been happening. If you have anything to say about this or anything else related to Candid before I cover anything further, my email address is right there. And, oh god, can I even do a TJ thing?
Do you have a banana on hand?
Not immediately, but I can substitute for anything else. It might be okay.
Maybe an antler.
Perhaps. My statement to you is that you're a total cunt, and that you should go fuck yourself. Put that in your video, faggot. You're lucky Candid rejected my video on the subject as too harsh. That's kind of as angry as I can be.
Yeah, which I take to mean that he was indeed involved in discussion of countering.
So what? So this the Amazing Atheist took it very, very sort of personally that he seems somewhat like if I dare use the phrase, a jilted lover in this. Like, he really seems to have taken it personally that you've like fucked up his relationship with Candid.
Well, they have a years-long relationship. That's another thing people perhaps haven't noticed. He's also claimed to know the people behind it in one of his ads. Which I presume means personally. I think since 2013, he's been working with My Likes, which is the parent company. And I think that lines up with his reaction to questioning him about it. That might be why the response was so extreme and why he had a bit of a freak out on Twitter publicly afterwards.
Okay. So I mean,
angry that I'd attacked a sponsor. Oh no, yeah. If they pay us, you've got to leave them alone because otherwise they might go away, sort of thing.
Yeah, and
which is what I despise above all else.
Yeah, that's something which I find, again, sort of very, very odd, because the Amazing Atheist is very much someone who values free speech and freedom of expression. He's made that abundantly clear over the years. He's very much one of those, you can say literally anything, it doesn't fucking matter. Under any circumstances, you should have the right to say anything. And then when a company that is giving him money basically says, oh, again, someone's questioning us, we may have to retract our agreement with you because, you're overreacting.
Well, we have no idea if anything like that went on.
Yeah.
I don't think that happened. I think they probably talked to him, though.
Okay, but so it's possible that he might still have some contact with him. I don't know, doesn't really matter, but it's sort of interesting the disproportionate reaction that he had, where it was very, very sort of angry and very threatening. Again.
Well, what's interesting that I don't think I've put out there is that at one point he was asked a question on Ask FM, and his response included, wishing for my death because I've made it harder for all the people in the skeptic community to make money from Candid or whatever. And I got my dude or my dude basically went and did this on his own. The guy who was talking to the CEO of Candid, who thought he was a friend, he basically tattled on TJ about this post. And what do you know? Soon after he tattles on TJ to the CEO of Candid, TJ deletes that from his Ask FM.
Yeah,
which I find very, very funny. I want to believe that she went and told him to delete it and that he's that cucked. But who can know for sure?
Yeah. Again, it is one of those things that it's impossible to know entirely for sure unless he actively says something about it. But it's just, again, that appearance of impropriety. Again, it's this free speech activist.
The amount of things that would have to be a coincidence.
Yeah, this is what it is. It's it
gets to a point where I can't go, oh, that's probably just a coincidence, blah 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 blah, because it gets to the point where it's going to be damaging to audiences or to me if I let everything go.
Yeah, it's like one coincidence. Yeah, you can write off one coincidence. Two, you can sort of go, yeah, okay, that's a little odd. But the number of coincidences just...
Another instance that looks like someone being shut up by this company was I baited the hell out of Mundane Matt after he made a response video to me that didn't go very well for him in terms of audience response. And I baited him and baited him on Twitter. And then I tattled to the CEO of Candid. And I said to her, basically, this person you're sponsoring looks like a psychopath. And she asks him to follow her. And then shortly afterwards, he stops talking to me and refuses to talk to me on Twitter.
Yes, it's another one of those coincidences, isn't it? It's like you've been going hard with someone for a little while, then a phone call is made somewhere and suddenly they back off. It's like, are the two related?
Because I'm wondering if that's a function of them having signed this shit that says they can't make the company look bad.
Yes.
I wonder if that would extend to making it look bad by looking like a nutcase defending it.
Yeah. And that is something which I would actually sort of agree with. It really does seem like, Canada's sort of trying to keep a bit of a leash on the people that they've got.
My experiments got the results I was expecting. If what I thought was happening, that's the best I can do, because I can't get inside of their accounts or anything to see what's been going on. Yeah. But I mean, they could solve it. They could solve all this by being transparent.
Yeah, this is the real problem with Candid. There's so much just weirdness around their interactions that, frankly,
and I think that's why a negative interpretation is fair, because they can fix it. If they decide to become transparent, they fix it. Because they're choosing not to be transparent, I think it's fair to hold a negative interpretation to assume not even necessarily the worst, but have a negative assumption because they're deciding to withhold information.
Yeah, and
clear it up.
It's the fact that not only is Candid withholding information, it's all the people who are working with Candid are withholding information. Now, we know that they're withholding information because of contractual obligation. I mean, we've got several
or maybe
instances
they're not.
now.
We can't even know that because they're not allowed to tell us.
Yeah. Well, that is the contractual obligation.
I mean, yeah, true. But I mean, we can't even know whether it's because of non-disparagement clause or whatever else. We don't know if some people have less. We don't know if some people have more stuff in their contract. We don't know if these people are in a position where they're fucked because they've signed up for 10 videos or something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
That's not my problem, though.
So what is your problem?
I think I've outlined that.
Fair enough.
There are a few of them. There are so many it's easy to get tangled, and that's why I hope my summary at the start will help people understand. Because that's my main concern, is that this skeptic community sort of subverted itself.
Yes.
It's undermined itself in one of the key fights, and that is censorship of new media.
Yeah.
The credibility when it comes to criticizing these platforms is splat, because they've endorsed one.
Yes.
And they've endorsed one that does all the shit all the other platforms are starting to do. And that disgusts and infuriates me. And I don't want anything to do with these people, especially if they're going to try to sweep it under the rug because they're a collective or whatever.
Yeah. This is, again, sort of one of the things which I've really just started to dislike some people about this. Only on this issue. I'm not going to hold it against them forever in every other aspect of their lives, but When it
Oh yeah,
comes to
I
this,
think there's been some misinterpretation about what I've been saying.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not going to like pretend that these people don't exist and shun them and
yeah,
blah blah
it's like,
blah.
yeah, it's gonna
But
be
I'm going to
nothing
make
along
sure it's
that.
very clear that I'm not on that team or in
Yeah,
that group.
yeah,
Same way it's very clear I'm not, I don't know, in the SJW circles or a Tumblr right or something, but I'd still speak with them and look at their stuff and even hang out with them or whatever.
yeah. It really is just like on this one issue. It's like, look, you guys are supposed to be all free speech and da 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 da. You're approached by a company who censors their material. You took money. You quite clearly didn't read your fucking contract. You didn't read any of the literature on the website of the product that you're then shilling. You
Or worse,
sign.
they did and were very selective about what they
Yes.
said and didn't say
Yeah.
to an audience they know loves free speech and hates all their stuff being filtered or hidden online.
Yeah. So it depends on how charitable you want to be. Now, I would personally just say, okay, they were stupid. They saw the money and just ran with it, because hey, everyone makes mistakes.
I mean,
Um,
that's the charitable interpretation, but it's not.
it's not that charitable. It's
exactly
yeah.
right.
So someone dangled $1,000 in front of me. I jizzed my pants and decided I really like the taste of
Especially when
corporate
there's
cock.
talk of, especially when there's talk of fighting a culture war. If that's the standard of your warriors,
Yeah.
I'd be very worried. You're going to
Yes.
lose.
Yeah. This is again why I turned down Candid. It was like, yeah, no, sorry. I summed it up in a little mathematical equation. I can't remember exactly what it was. I believe it was on one of your videos. Something like viewer trust plus integrity is greater than $1,000. Because
Sounds
yeah,
about right.
that seems to be sort of how this works for a lot of the people who have endorsed candidates. Basically, yeah, for the cost of $1,000, I'll sell out my audience's trust and lie to them and promote something which goes against the morals which I have been virtue signaling oh so hard over the past several months. Because fuck that, money's more important, right?
There's a bit of a clash going on as well, where people want to sort of be just a person in a room and also the new media that people go to at the same time. Obviously, people typically literally are just a person in the room, but the reason media ethics and all that stuff is important is because of the number of people you're influencing. Because I mean, if you have the same reach as TV, or you're starting to reach have the same reach as a newspaper, and you are putting facts out there and arguing an ideological position and things like that, you do need to be held to some sort of standard, or it's at least totally fair to try to hold you to some sort of standard. You can't act like a warrior and then back down and say, oh, I can't remember anything. I'm just a baby or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, this is sort of where we enter that grey area of, how high of a standard do we hold others to, or do they hold
That would get
themselves
very
to?
philosophical.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is the thing. I don't hold anyone on YouTube to any particular standard because I know that they're basically all just a bunch of people, and if they want to sell people out, lie to them, and all that sort of shit, hey, you go for it. Just be aware that I'm never gonna fucking trust you, like
Well,
especially on this issue.
that's the stuff I like to attack for sport.
But also on that, I like to, again, hold myself to as high a standard as I can, which is why, when I see a product that's like, hey, are you willing to sell out your morals of not censoring things for some money? And I say, you know what? No. The integrity which I have and the trust which I've built up with my viewer base over the last 2 and a bit years is worth more to me than your $1,000.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
That's how I see it. It's no, I'm not going to take your money to then advertise something which looks like it's going to be censoring people who I know are like, hey, I like free speech and freedom of expression, and I'm not going to sit there and tell them, oh, it's a free speech platform. Yeah, it's just going to censor you. And I'm definitely not going to tell you, yeah, there's this platform over here. It's going to censor certain things, possibly at random. It probably is going to end up with a horrendous bias. And, I'm totally okay with that.
For me, it's more of a case of wanting to serve the people who are part of their audiences who care about this. I mean, I have my own personal preferences and tastes, but even from back when I was getting started and I was looking at more Gamergate stuff, that was to do with serving the people who were the game journalists' audiences who didn't like what they were doing, even though the games journalists uh, would say, "Oh, I'm not a journalist. I'm a blogger. I'm a blah blah blah." I don't particularly care about that as long as the people watching them are in need of a service that points things out or helps them investigate things or gives them something more to think about.
Yeah, something which I find very interesting here is the gaming media comparison, because it's one which I've actually made before about this.
God,
Um,
dude, someone sent me that super internet best friends thing.
yeah.
That was like, dude, you're fucking psychic, man.
Yeah, I called it several months ago, and oh, what a surprise! I was right. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit and gloat too hard about that
That
because,
spooked me. Someone sent
hmm,
it to me and I was like, holy shit.
yeah, yeah, but that's something which I found very interesting. That there is this behind the scenes collaboration going on. Now, I thought that it was only just that Skype group which someone dumped me in one day, and I was like, what the
I don't
fuck
think
is
it even
this?
needs that. I don't think it even needs that. Once you start having the collective identity and you have people wanting to maintain it, you end up with people falling into line quite naturally. Like, I don't think there was that much collusion when it came to those games journalists. It was just that they'd fallen into groupthink and tribalism, and it just happens naturally.
Hmm. Yeah, it is weird how people sort of just are. I don't know. They just sort of fall into it. I suppose it's because it is just sort of quite easy to do so, but I don't really
Oh
have an
yeah, definitely.
explanation for
Everyone's
it.
vulnerable to it.
Yeah, it's just a case of being forever
I just
vigilant.
got a bit of special help snapping out of some of it when some fucking asshole got into my stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose if you want to put a silver lining on it. So, speaking of assholes who snapped you out of stuff, let's talk about Sargon of Akkad. I jest, I jest. I think he's a pretty cool guy, but he
Yeah, I
had
think he's all right.
yeah
I don't have a problem
he had a I thought it was a funny
as a person.
segue, but I know the internet loves dramas. They'll be like, Tildy, I called you an asshole. You know, he'd just call me an asshole right back. It's fine. Um, but he did a stream with you as well, and I found his general demeanor over this topic to be very dismissive. Now, I don't know whether that's just
I find it quite surreal, particularly as because I wasn't planning on coming back to this. I only came back to the topic because of his video where he was talking about sort of, I guess, letting people off the hook or whatever, because it was unfair to keep going after them because they didn't know this or that or whatever. And he comments under one of my videos and he's saying, I saw all your stuff and, you know, it just looked like corporate culture and you don't understand the incentives they have and blah, 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 blah. And then I go into a stream with them and it's like he doesn't know any of it and hasn't seen any of it. Yet he was just saying the other day that he'd seen it all and didn't see anything worth noting.
yeah.
I mean, it's fine if you don't know any of it, but not after you've said you do know all of it.
That is weird. And then sort of combine that with the skeptic community video which he did, which was basically like, oh, we should sort of just like cut some people some slack if they're on our team. It really was if they're in our in group, you know, maybe you can just let
That's
a
why I
few
wanted to
things
disassociate.
slide.
I don't want to be in that bubble.
Yeah, neither do I. Neither do I. I'm completely on board with you with that. That's why
I
goddamn months ago.
I came to the realization that there's an unspoken owing people for helping you build an audience.
There is. Yeah.
That goes a bit too far. I mean, cool. Someone helps you. Someone hosts a video or shouts you out or has you on your thing. You have them on your thing maybe or whatever. But I feel that it goes beyond that. And I mean, to the point where Sargon felt comfortable contacting me back in October to try to get me to stop looking at Candid.
Really?
Yeah, and he called me for 2 hours the same night. This was the day that Armored Skeptics censored opinions video went out. And he called me for 2 hours and he was explaining that basically we're losing because we don't have the institutional influence. Maybe this Bindu Ready person's actually a secret shitlord, and it might be good for us to be connected to Candid because that will give us some of that institutional influence that we're lacking.
Yeah, how? It's a social media site. What exactly do you expect to achieve with a social media startup?
I don't know.
The
He was
answer is
trying to, I
fucking
think that
nothing.
was when there was the BBC dude getting fired from the BBC allegedly because he was white, and Sargon was trying to get me to help him with that narrative instead.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think that's probably when I started to feel a bit uneasy and starting to think, what, by getting involved with these people, what are they going to start to think they're entitled to ask me to do? Or
Yeah.
what do they expect in return? Which is why I use the term skeptic mafia. Because like, oh shit, what I've accepted favors, and now what do I owe them? Am I going to wake up with a feminist's head in my bed?
Very possibly. Very possibly. Because this is... It really is. There does seem to be this sort of unspoken bond amongst a lot of the sort of skeptic race, because
and it's now become a spoken bond.
Yes, and
as far as I'm concerned, with the skeptic community video.
Yeah, this has become sort of a thing, and it's basically been sort of formalized with that admission. Because obviously we had this sort of Candid stuff which kind of linked people together, and it was something which I was noticing months ago, even with that Skype group where loads of these like skeptic creators were all together on Skype, and they were all like sharing videos with each other. It's like, oh, I'm going to make a response to this. You should make one too. Yeah, I'll make a response to this. When are you going to put yours out? Oh yeah, I'll put mine out the next day. So we're not flooding people on the same day. It's like,
that's
Games Journo Pros, anyone? I'm having fucking flashbacks here.
That's one. I mean, it doesn't sound necessarily like the most sinister thing in the world as it is like that. It sounds just kind of tacky, or I don't know exactly how to describe it. Like,
it's not like a malicious united front as such, but it definitely has
the
that
effect
in-group. It has that sort of in-group, out-group dynamic, and the kind of, there are unwritten rules here sort of thing.
The kind of thing that if you remember in Game Journo Pros, there was that thing where they were talking about getting together to get something for Zoe Quinn, or something like that. It could lead to something along those lines where a lot of people who do commentary, I'd include myself in this, step over a line and start to do a touch of journalism, and then you have to worry about how responsible I am for this or that, and it's better to err on the side of caution when getting involved with other people who are doing the similar thing to you, because you don't want to, I think you even just out of self-interest, you don't want to get caught influencing something heavily and then people find out you're in a group with other people and you've orchestrated that, because that's how you get a shitstorm.
Also, you don't want to necessarily step on too many toes, because hey, you wouldn't want to be a clone of someone. Oh yeah, I went there. I felt like it was necessary.
And you're just asking for yourself to develop neuroses and end up self-censoring because you don't want to get kicked out of a group because you're dependent on it and so on. Don't do that.
Yeah, and this is something which I've sort of developed a little bit of a worry for some of the content creators here, because obviously we've got this Candid thing where there's been sort of a very distinct united front from some people on this topic, which has looked sketchy as fuck. But then it's this sort of, it's this kind of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours mentality, and it just sort of seems like, do I want to cover this topic because I know that somebody else doesn't like it? And, like they don't want to have the disagreements with other people, because it would just sort of cause unnecessary drama that they don't like. And then the problem is you get the community response as well. And I've noticed this whenever I've had disagreements with people in that, skeptic, rationalist, whatever, we're using logic and reason and evidence, trademarks, sort of people. And their first thing is just like, oh no, mum and dad need to stop fighting. The real enemy is someone else.
It pulls your teeth out and cuts off your claws, because instead of listening to your, sometimes what you write I'd call a polemic, but I'm all about polemics, attacking things, and it takes away your fire. It takes away your teeth, because people don't listen to it, and instead all they see is, this is infighting, it should stop.
Yeah.
This goes against the interests of the group, it should stop.
Yeah. So I don't give a shit about the group, I give a shit about me.
Yeah. I'd prefer people see me as an enemy rather than someone who's infighting, because then at least I can still have punch. At least it's still going to hit, and there's going to be teeth and claws, and they're going to feel it.
Yeah. And also the other concern is, if you sort of get into this cozy little in-group and everyone sees you as it, I don't know why, but I've found myself sort of starting to doubt some people, where it's kind of like, you know, how much are you sort of willing to go against the grain, and how much are you basically just circle jerking? And as I said in a recent video, how much are you just recycling other people's viewpoints while not thinking about it?
Well,
Because
my fear is that I'd do that.
yeah, I've been sort of a bit concerned that I might be tempted to do that, but I don't watch enough people for that to matter. Because frankly, I've just pruned my sub list, and now it's down to about, I don't know, like half a dozen people or something like that. It's actually so much better this way.
Secret is that I mostly, if it's serious, I read it. If it's like food or travel, I watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
My
That's
favorite
the
YouTuber
thing.
is like Furious Pete, the
Yeah,
competitive eater.
yeah. Like this is actually sort of quite a good way of doing it, because uh, I'm just going to pull out an example from my own repertoire here. Months and months ago, there was that birth control jab thing, which went up, and I read the study, and I'd watched sort of 4 or 5 of the, you know, skeptic rationalists giving their take on it, and then I read the study, and I was like, every single one of these people has lied, or they didn't read it, or they're stupid, because everything they've said is completely wrong. How? Why? What the fuck?
I haven't looked at that, so I don't know about it.
It was basically it went around, and there were lots of people saying like, oh, it was, the trial was ceased because it made some of the men sterile, and there were loads of really, really bad side effects, and it all had to be cancelled because of safety concerns. And then I actually just read the study to everyone in a video, and it was like, no, one person didn't regain full fertility after a 4-year period, not sterile. Um, all of these severe side effects that people had, about 3/4 of them came from one medical center. So the odds are it was just a fuck up with something with the medicine at that particular center. So it wasn't like a widespread thing. It was very, very much isolated and concentrated there. And there was one person which committed suicide during the course of the trial, and everyone was saying, oh, he killed himself because he was made sterile. No, he didn't kill himself because he was made sterile. He was not one of the people who suffered from the low sperm motility at the end of it. And actually, there was a big investigation done into it, and it was determined that it was owing to academic pressure and like job problems that he was having.
But that's not spicy. That doesn't get you a hot headline.
I know, but this is the thing. People in this rationalist skeptic group just repeated this bullshit. And I just looked at it and was like, you fucking what? And then it was like, who was the first person to put this video out? And how many of you just watch that as your source because you implicitly trust these people and you don't want to contradict them, or you don't actually want to do the fucking legwork that you claim that you're doing because you do research and use evidence? No, you don't. You just copy paste what other people have said. Don't give me that shit. That's the problem which I'm finding with certain parts of it, and I think this Candid thing is sort of another indication of that general behavior. Except this sort of formalized it, and then lately with this whole, the skeptic community, we need to just sweep things under the rug and, you know, never hold anyone to task or anything like that, or, you know, we need to just sort of not have any sort of disagreement over anything.
Do you think there was an element of people seeing, oh, everyone else is doing this, so it must be fine?
Yeah, I really do.
Probably.
Because that would explain to me why so fucking many people didn't mention the bot, why so many of them didn't even basically read Candid's fucking website where all of this information was up on the front fucking page.
I know from Bearing that what the marketer did, which was quite clever, was they sent him 2 other skeptic-y people's videos as an example of how he could do his. So the company was actually trying to bet on that effect. And when you see this same marketer commenting under one of the more SJW people advertising it, he talks about, oh, it's good, the bot filters out anything that's nasty or blah, blah, blah. Perhaps the greatest irony is how much nasty shit there is on there. But
yeah,
the principle matters, I think.
Yeah, this this Candid saga has really sort of just cemented my opinion of sort of several people as basically just like, when it comes to this particular issue, I can't trust you. And I said this on, I believe, one of your videos before they were tragically destroyed from the internet. Anyone who has taken money from Candid cannot be trusted to talk about Candid. Just straight up, you cannot trust them. because there are non-disclosure agreements in place, there are gag orders in place. You cannot trust them to talk about this topic openly. And what you do know is that they have taken money willingly for that to be the outcome. And they have sold out your trust as an audience member.
Yeah, and that's what I promised to fight at the start of my channel. So I've got to fight it until I consider I've done my duty.
Do you feel like your duty has been done with this stream, at least?
I think it's definitely helped. And I'm very, very appreciative, seeing as my platform's been decimated, and you've lent me your audience to try to make sure people know what's up. Because I mean, even if they disagree, cool. At least they've heard some of it.
Yeah, that's fine. And now we all know, Harmful, you fucking owe me for the rest of your life. Clearly.
Don't worry. The Addy video's on its way.
Good man. That's what I like to hear. We're gonna double team that white whale into oblivion. Oh god, there's gonna be fan art of that now. I fucking know it. So
probably.
Since we're kind of winding down now, we've ripped into the Candid issue. We've ripped into the skeptic, and we're totally not a community, guys. Honestly. Yeah, okay, if you say so. Is there anything you'd like to bring up before we wind this down and let things come to an end?
Just unrelated. Some of you might know that some asshole got into my stuff, wiped. I don't know exactly what happened, but I haven't been able to get my full account back. But I am at some point going to do videos again, just so people know. Take this opportunity while I've got. Hopefully, some of the people in the audience were people who followed me before or something, so they know now. Just trying to get that message out.
Yep. So is that going to be on another Harmful Opinions channel, or are you just going to move everything over to
youtube.com youtube.com/harmful opinions. They gave me my vanity URL.
Oh, excellent.
They didn't give me, well, they didn't resubscribe people who would presumably want to be subscribed to it. They didn't put my videos back, but they just said, here's a fresh account with your vanity URL.
Oh, well, better than nothing, I suppose.
Yeah, better than nothing.
That's better than my URL, which is just a series of numbers and letters. And the thing is, I've signed up for that program to get the vanity one. They've still not sent it to me, and it's never going to work. I've decided that Google has just fucked me over royally, so fuck Google. But it's nice to know that you've got yours. So that was youtube.com/harmful opinions for anyone who wants to go and catch the latest happenings, and no doubt some responses to the inevitable drama which is going to follow this stream, because
or I could just ignore it and let stuff burn.
Yeah, well, that's kind of my plan. I know that there's going to be people leaping on this because, oh my god, we're not a community, and all of these arguments that oh wait, you made several months ago. Shit,
gonna be talking about this again tomorrow as well.
Yes, so would you like to shill that for people as well?
Yeah, going to be on the Dick Show, I believe. Although we're recording it tomorrow, it's going to come out next Tuesday, and it's his podcast on iTunes, so I'm going to be on there. The Dick Show.
The Dick Show.
Get some dick in your ear.
Yep, is that actually the tagline?
It's stuff, various things like that. It's a crude show.
Perfect. It's nice to know that you keep the bar equally high going from here to other places. Fantastic. Nice to know that you have very, very high standards of places that you are willing to go to. Ah, fantastic. Well, I think we're going to wind that down there, so I'm going to say thank you very much, Harmful, for joining me today. It's been a...
No problem, anytime. Thanks very much for having me.
Excellent, anytime, and hopefully your channel will get back up. And of course, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening and staying with us, and no doubt going and perpetuating all of the drama, telling all of the people whose names have been featured in this video that we're shit-talking them because you want your drama responses, damn it, because that's how things work. And remember, no one is connected to anyone else. Clearly, there's not going to be a concerted effort against this in any way whatsoever. Just remember that. It's really fucking important. Goodbye, everyone.